In this video, we're going to go over a couple ways to use an alpha map, a tiling alpha, to apply some repeating detail to a model. In the case of our fish here, we're going to try to use that to create some scales. So first off, the first method is just by using the standard brush with the drag rectangle mode. And then if we go to the alpha, I'm going to go down to import. I'm going to import my own scale alpha that I created. I'm going to press open. Now, on my model, I got my symmetry turned on. If I click and drag, I can start to, right away, I'll drag in the other direction, I can just click and drag in some scale texture. And then with this method, you start dragging it in, it gets you some of the way, but you'll have to go back in and kind of refine the areas and touch up the transition. In this case, I might have wanted a little more geometry, so if I gave it one more subdivision with Control D, then, it helps draw out the alpha a little more, with a little more crispness. So that's the first way, just using a alpha map that I created, dragging it in with the drag tool. Simple enough. Now the next method is very powerful but a little more complicated. So I'm going to back up my history a little bit and we'll check out this method. So this method involves the surface tab. So we're on the tools and then we go down to surface and then we're going to use this noise maker here. So what you need for this method to work is you need your model to have UVs. So in my case, if I turn on my polyfill here, my two different polygroups here represent my two UV maps or UV islands for this model. And if we go down to UV map, morph UV, and then we solo these, we can see what my UV map looks like. So I have nice, even, symmetrical UVs for the body of my fish and the face of my fish. So for this method to work best, you need your UV set up, and then again, we're going to use the same alpha. You need a tiling alpha texture. So I'm going to unmorph these, turn this off, and we'll get started. So to do this, we're going to open the surface tab, then we're going to press noise. This will open a little sub window where we can change some settings. So first off, up at the top, we're going to switch from 3D mode to UV mode. We want to be in UV mode because we want this texture to project on our UVs and because our model does have UVs. So UV mode, then we go down here to that where it says alpha on off. If we click that, this will let us import an alpha to use. I'm going to use my tiling fish scales. We'll press open and then we won't see anything right away. But if we adjust some settings, I'm going to start with the strength. I'm going to turn this mixed basic noise off because we don't want that. And I'm just going to adjust the scale of the alpha. You can see my scale starting to come in. And I'll adjust it till they're about the size I like. I think I like this size. And then I'm going to adjust the strength a little more. Important thing to note is that usually you want to make the strength a little higher than you think you actually want it, just because when you finalize it to the final mesh, it'll be a little less intense. So I'm going to up it a little more than I want. So once you change all those settings, so UV mode, adjust the scale, adjust the strength, turn the mixed basic noise down to 0. And I can actually, let's see, what's this do? Okay, you don't gotta mess with that. Once you have it looking how you want, you press OK, and now you'll see it displayed on your mesh. Now this is just a preview, so this isn't actually affecting your geometry right now, because we still have a couple things we could do. So obviously, I don't want this in the full face. I just want it in certain areas. So now we can come in with our masking pen and we can mask off the areas that we don't want it to appear. So I'm going to go around and do a quick mask because I think I'm just going to put these scales kind of on his back here. So I'm just going to mask off his eyes and his belly here and kind of shrink the scale down, and I'm just going to mask out where this seam is because why not? So you can now mask out, while you're still in your preview, you can mask out the areas you don't want the texture to appear. So to finalize the texture, come down here, make sure this S normal setting is all the way to 100, it may be down lower, and then press apply to mesh. And it'll just do its little process and it'll stamp it onto your mesh. So it's pretty low resolution here, and that's just related to the density of my mesh. If I back up one, we have our preview again, and if I press Control D on my keyboard, let's see, uh, basically I would have to add more subdivision levels to my model, but this will show the process. So we'll reapply it to the mesh, and now if we Control, click, and drag to clear our mask, now we can come in and we can start to clean up the edges. You know, with a lot of these tools in ZBrush, you'll find they get you like, they get you 80% of the way, but you'll still have to come in, make some artistic choices on how to blend in these textures to your, to the rest of your model. So that's a cool way to apply scales to a fish using the noise maker under surface. The key again is that just having proper UVs set up on your model.